Espresso Talks by Sphere Energy.
Welcome everybody to our second episode in 2026. Today we have with us a very special guest, Rudolf Franz, a very successful entrepreneur who was starting in the private equity space and ended up taking a German company to the New York Stock Exchange. Welcome, Rudi.
Hi, nice to meet you, and thank you for having the opportunity to have a conversation with you about private equity and NYSE listing.
Awesome. Cool. So maybe let's start with your private equity experience. What brought you into private equity, and how did private equity shape you? Right? What understanding did you get about value creation? How did this shape your life and your character?
So actually, it was, I wouldn't say an accident, but I just was looking for after my time at university. I was looking for a job, and I applied for a job as investment manager. Volkswagen. Volkswagen is probably well known in the industry. Is one of the venture capital old guys here in Germany, and he started Technologie Holding together with Gerd Köhler, and there I was one of the early guys who invested or wrote initially papers for the old guys, but learned the business from scratch at that time. That was for me a very good lesson learned, because we back in the mid-90s, we had not super big funds. I think the fund they raised was called European Technology Holding and Advanced European Technology Holding. It was Netherlands structures. They were not super big in today's term. It just went. Advanced European Technology Holding was, I think, 25 million euro ballpark. But in those days, together with a couple of public additional investments, you could create quite nice startup investment rounds. And
I guess these were smaller. The valuations back then were small.
A lot
as well.
Smaller, a lot more hands-on. But quite some nice businesses turned out. So Falk brought Micronas public at those days, or as he said, was a spin etcher. Micronas was a chip manufacturer at that time on the Swiss market. And we invested in from 95, or I invested from 95 until 2020, 2022 in quite some deals, and we really very nicely participated at that point of time in the Neue Markt, which was
insane,
an unbelievable bubble, and had the luck to sell our partnership in early 2000 to 3i Group in London. They were more focused on late-stage deals. We had a nice portfolio in the early-stage tech market. And so I then moved to 3i, which was another very interesting experience, working for a British private equity firm and doing larger deals and really learn the business from another side. Overall, I would say in private equity, you learn how to deal with risk and as well accept failure. So at that point of time, or when you do statistics, most deals don't work out. So we had a quite decent deal flow. You probably do 2-3% out of the deal flow, which is really significant. And you believe that, or the team believe that probably the 2% are the high flyers. Usually out of the 2%, which we did, probably 20%, 25% are high flyers. So the high flyer rate is very, very small. You have a couple of living death in, and for sure a lot of real death deals which you have to deal with and simply have to accept. But if you accept this, you can be quite successful in private equity.
Awesome. So then after this very successful private equity career, you decided, you mentioned failure and risk, to go on the dark side and kind of lead a company by yourself, right? And
I wouldn't say I wouldn't. I wanted to lead by myself. It was more or less again an accident. So I was very opportunistic, because when I left 3i, I was still quite young, and at that point of time, I was lucky to make some real good money, which made me very independent from third-party cash flows. Let's say it that way. And I did own investments in a couple of deals, and one of those deals, I met Ingo, who is the founder, with two other guys of voxeljet. I met him, and in the early days, I just supported, as you usually do as venture capitalist. You help in funding and structuring, and be a point of, how to say, to discuss difficult topics. And so I was had a board seat in that deal. And I think in 2009, when the business had probably 50 people, we discussed how to scale it. And I had time, and I just joined the operational business and became COO and took care for all commercial parts, meaning marketing, sales, finance, controlling, accounting, and internationalization. And then in 2013, there was a window which we have seen for an IPO, not in Europe, in the US. And I must say, I didn't push for the IPO, because when you worked in private equity, you know what you definitely don't wanna have is this real fingerprints on a single deal. I think the advantages in private equity is very simple, or are very simple, that you have a lot of deals you can work on, and if you are an entrepreneur, you have only one deal usually. And
exactly.
So the success rate as an entrepreneur is a lot lower than as a venture capitalist, simply because of the portfolio which you manage. And therefore, at that point of time, I was going public with all the risk, especially in the US. I would have loved the trade sale a lot more. Trade sale means, as a venture capitalist, gonna get the cash and actually walk away and do something else. But my partner, he wanted to use this opportunity, and so I had the network. We spent a couple of days in New York, met with bankers. A friend of mine who worked at that point of time at Dechert, a global acting law firm, made us some good contacts, and so we came back with a consortium. And half a year later, it was a hell of a work. We went public on NYSE. I think it was October 18th, 2013. Well, a cool time.
Maybe before we go into the NYSE times, what brought you, or what fascinated you, especially in this? We heard voxeljet already a couple of times. Maybe we can talk quickly about what voxeljet is doing, and what fascinated you about 3D printing and about this technology and manufacturing.
When I worked for Falk Straschek as an investment manager, or later on as a partner, we had a couple of deals in that space. So we invested in EOS. Some people might know it. It's a laser-based 3D printing company, very successful, globally acting, and a couple of other deals. So I was quite familiar with that industry. And a friend of mine, or a friend of me and Ingo as well, he called me when I left 3R and said, "Hey, Ingo has some troubles. Maybe you can help him." So I think I could help him. And the deal he was working on was very, very cool, because they invented the powder binder process for industrial applications out of the University Munich. And they already sold printers. They had two deals, one with Daimler at that point of time and one with BMW. And I would say that showed very early that there is a huge demand for this technology. And so I think the initial investment was not very significant, because they had significant problems. And so I just stabilized the business more or less, and helped them to move ahead.
Cool, interesting. And then you mentioned it, the NYSE topic. I mean, I think only a few people in Germany can say that they brought a company to the New York Stock Exchange. So maybe you can talk a little bit about what this adventure was about. I mean, I can imagine
it's actually it's actually a real crazy journey.
It's a roller coaster, I guess, right?
Yeah, because most deals which we have seen in the last couple of years were SPAC IPOs. in the US as well. But at that point of time, no one talked about. So we really did it the hard way. And I must say we succeeded. We raised 100 million in the IPO at that point of time. And that was not possible in Germany in a pre-IPO round or on a European stock market. And I think in the peak we had 1 or 2 billion market cap as well. Wow, amazing. I would say no one could believe it when they have seen this. And by the way, we as well. So we really worked very hard just to justify the expectations, both on business sides and the other side on really dealing with the SEC and with all administrative topics.
This must be huge.
You really can't imagine what that means. And the team, we were a great team. Really spent a lot of time, really not to dive under the water.
I can imagine. Yeah, it must be an emotional roller coaster as well. No, I mean, working so hard and then achieving a market cap of 1.2 billion. I mean,
I think you're gonna forget about all this quite quick because again, you concentrate on the operational business and really achieving the targets. As a public business, you talk with analysts. Everyone is very ambitious, wants you to achieve all targets. And the expected growth rates at that point of time, they were just too aggressive. And this is as well why the bubble a couple of years later bursted. It started again and it bursted again. I would say 3D printing is a pretty good example of overheated market, of too high expectations. Overall, I would say we really delivered nice. We built a business which is there, and I think we come later to this. We merged with X1, who as well went public and went at a quite interesting journey. So we really built a business which is there, where we have meanwhile 650 printers sold in a global market, and nice revenues. I think it's 2024. The combined business did 90 million, which is okay. We could for sure do more if the Chinese competitors would not have been as aggressive, but this is another story. But I would say we really built it something nice, and 3D printing is definitely a cool application for or in the production environment of complex metal parts, but it simply does not grow as fast as everyone expected. Everyone expected that you only do 3D printing.
Everything 3D,
which is very simple. It's just not the case. You still mill and use all other tools which you have on hand. You just have another tool, and whenever you have super complex metal pieces in production with lower quantities, and we talk about a couple of thousand is a lower quantity in production, then you have a very nice production method, which meanwhile is well established and quite successful.
And you mentioned Chinese competition, and I think this is something which is very similar in the automotive and battery market as well, where we have very aggressive Asian competitors. How did you deal with this from a technology roadmap perspective? What role did patents play, right? I find that always a very interesting discussion. How good is it worth spending a lot of money in protecting your IP, or rather developing new IP and staying ahead of the wave? How did you deal with the very aggressive competition?
I would say in the early days of the last century, I would say we could deal pretty good with it because I would say our products still were better. And on the technology end, there was definitely a competitive advantage, and we definitely could easily convince customers to pay a premium. Nowadays, and I think the last 3-4 years, the Chinese competitors became very, very strong, and I would say on standard products, they just charge to the end user half the price, which is
in a cost-driven market, right?
In a cost-driven market, which is wow, it's mind-blowing. I was last week in China again, and whenever I'm there, I'm really how to say amazed how concentrated and how good they execute. So it is how to deal with. Again, in the early days, it was doable. Nowadays, you really have to concentrate, to consolidate, to use your resources better. I would say the consolidation process in our industry is going on. And in the powder binder, 3D powder binder environment, we now created a market leader with voxeljet and X1. And the geopolitical changes gave us some headroom to breathe and to deal with the situation, because if you do defense applications or if you deal with US clients, they will not buy a Chinese product. So the way we currently act in the market helps us, especially in the European market, to keep prices at a certain level, to spend R&D euros or dollars in a more clever way and don't compete against the European competitors. But I think on the long run, the Chinese will play a significant role, and we can differentiate because we do a lot with larger platforms where we don't see the competition yet, but that will come. And what we have seen is that clients, I think we currently work on a very big project in China, and we won it against a very strong competitor who already was dealing with that client and had a significant footprint of own printers in that business. But the entrepreneur or the founder of that business was very disappointed about our competitor, because he used know-how which was clearly a secret know-how in other applications. And I think if you stick to what you say, and if you stick to your word, that can be helpful in certain situations. If you talk about patents, I would say we spend a lot of money in patents, and it helped us as well in the early days, especially when doing business in the US, in Europe. It's pretty cool. But in the Chinese environment, to fight for a patent is a real strong or a difficult thing. And I would say, at least that's our experience. That might be wrong, but to me, it appears like a workbook for everyone sitting in China. If we file for a patent, that they say, okay, thank you, that reads good. How can I? So
the recipe is there even.
So sometimes, to me, it's better not to talk too much about and just do it. Things might change. Dealing too much with patents and want to be successful in a Chinese market, I think that is something where I have my doubts. So we as a company as well did not benefit a lot from the patents when dealing in China. For sure, it helped us to keep the Chinese competition out of the market. But again, how to control it? Okay,
exactly. And you need
so if a printer is sitting, we don't sell 100,000 of printer, but if a printer is sitting in a factory and you're not allowed to look into the printer at all, or how should I deal with? So in a very seldom case, it's on an exhibition and you open the hood and see, okay, they infringed the patent. That is an ideal case and you can stop it. But in business, sometimes you just don't know it and you just can assume, but gonna get half right and gonna get right is something very different.
Yeah, and I think now that you have done what a lot of founders dream about, right? IPO a company. Looking back, what's your resume, right? Was it the right thing? Was it maybe the right thing for voxeljet? Do you recommend it? And just share your emotions and your thoughts.
Actually, I'm not the founder. I'm the investor.
A lot of founders dream about
yeah, but I must say, still doing an IPO, and I have shown you some pictures from the bell ringing ceremony. I think it's a really cool and exciting moment when you are on NYSE and do the bell ringing. It's really, really cool because only a couple of people do it, and we should talk about a European base, it doesn't happen very often. So when looking back, I would say, wow, it was a mind-blowing moment. But it's a moment. So thereafter, the race starts, and I just can say, if you not fast enough, not good enough, and I think if you are NYSE listed, we play Champions League, and investors and analysts, they just watch you, even in the bubble market. If you don't deliver, and even if you deliver okay, they nail you down. And again, even there, only a couple of businesses survive. So surviving the first 5 years is a real success. So we survived 11 years. I can tell we really fight it hard and convinced investors to invest in the technology and help us to really do cool projects. But I would say you as well have to accept that you don't make it and that you have to go back again. Very simple. So it's exciting, and life is a very short time. If you can do an IPO and NYSE, gonna go for it, but don't be disappointed if it doesn't work out. Sell some shares at the beginning of the IPO. I think that's very helpful if you make some money, if you have not made it before, because if the deal doesn't fly high or long-term high, you will not sell a lot of shares thereafter. Okay, so there is a time for selling shares at the IPO and maybe at the secondary if market is healthy, and thereafter then only a few businesses develop, like Tesla at the end, and you have seen Tesla struggling a lot. And we see only those software deals. If you do hardware is a pretty tough business to be successful. There are successful businesses on the stock market. I would say we tried. I think we did quite well, but for us it was better after 11 years to step down and be more in a private environment and concentrate on the next phase.
Yeah, exactly. So after 11 years, basically you decided to delist, right? And how did this work, or what were the actions and the considerations?
Actually, what I said is, being a public company, actually you sell two products. You sell the product which you develop, and hopefully clients like it. You're going to sell it to the clients, and the other product is your share, your stock, and the stock has to be attractive to justify the high cost associated with being a public company. And so you just have to imagine that a company like ours, $30, $40, $50 million in revenue ballpark, you pay in at least $1 or $2, $1 or $3 million for the audit, and probably $1 million for the D&O in our case. So, and there are cases, I'm sure if you talk to others, they pay even more. And especially after this, the insolvency of Wirecard, and on top US listings were very, very tough in respect of cost. And then you have the legal expenses. Everything you do has to be discussed with lawyers. So we paid, we needed 3.5 to 4 million euro a year, which is an unbelievable number for a small business. And you can justify this only if you have a high valuation, if you can issue new shares easily. If that doesn't work out, you really have to think about your business case, how to adjust it. And for us, it was, when discussing it with our larger investors, we decided that we just take the way back.
Sure, absolutely makes sense, right? And I think one quote that from all the conversations that we had stuck really with me is, there is a window of opportunity for everything. And when you see it, better grab it and take a decision. And there might be always, looking back, a better deal, but you have a deal on the table at a certain moment, and you need to.
I would say the thing is, and everyone who does something, okay, even if you start at a 3-year-old guy on a surfboat or on roller skates or whatever, you recognize, It's tricky, and then you have to decide what's the better next step. I must say, the earlier you accept that reality is as it is, and you accept that reality changes, and you have to adapt it, and you have to adapt to it, the better. And I think we were very realistic, and there was a window because an investor said, "Okay, I'm gonna help you guys," and then we just took it. Okay, and then you just have to do it with all the consequences and fly back. So, but it's all, starting a business or investing in a business and bringing it public. Maybe it works out, but it is having the helmet on always means be prepared for the change and just react and do what is necessary simply to survive.
Absolutely, and it's really amazing to get your honest opinion here and your honest feedback on so many things where so many people around you have an opinion, right? Everybody talks about massive evaluations and becoming a billionaire, becoming a millionaire, and only very few people have done it, right? And everybody's giving you advice and telling you that's not enough, you should do this way or that way, but it's really impressive to talk to someone that has really done it.
Yeah, I think you have to make you have to be prepared to do decisions and to simply make mistakes. Okay? And if I don't decide, I don't make a mistake, but nothing happens thereafter. For most people, it's easier to judge than to be curious and to do something new. And I must say, I stopped listening too much to them, and probably read a lot and talk to people who do something in our organization and listen careful to them, and have a good feeling what is possible business-wise. Even can I do fundraising or can't I do fundraising, and just be responsible. Be responsible for the team and try. The easy thing is most people who work in who sign off on an employment contract here in Europe. In the US, you don't sign off on a lot of cases on an employment contract, but they come to you because they want to have a good job and they want to have a check at the end of the month. And I must say, for me, that was especially in the last 3 years a significant pressure. Really be prepared to pay the check every month. And I think that is because people trust you, people trust, and they spend their time, and they have to pay their bills. So this is, to me, something which really motivated me to give them back the trust and fulfill what we agreed on.
Amazing. Great, Rudi. Thanks so much for sharing your insights on responsibility, on taking leadership, on taking care of your employees, and about all the risks and the upsides and the downsides of going to the New York Stock Exchange. It was really amazing to talk to you.
Thank you.
We hope, and I hope personally, that there would be more people like you in Germany who take responsibilities and bring this country forward. Thank you very much, Rudi.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.